What's up, you guys? So just the other day, I was feeding one of my Uromastics, and believe it or not, she's actually gravid. Check her out. She is huge. But while I was feeding her, I was kind of thinking to myself what one of my first reptiles was, because it wasn't a Uromastix. In fact, give me a second, let me put her away. My first reptile wasn't a Uromastix. My first reptile was actually a crested gecko. And I thought to myself, it was really crazy just how far I've come in the hobby myself, from where I started and to what I own now and how much knowledge I've gained. And then I got to wondering what other people in this company started with and then where they are now in this hobby. So we're going to go to a couple of our stores and we're going to ask some of the employees what their first reptiles were and to see where they're at now in the hobby. So let's go.
Hey guys, this is Zoe from Triple L Reptile, and I have a leopard gecko here. This is one of my first species of reptiles, and I got one in 2015 and still have it to this day. She is thriving. When I first got her, she was about this big, and now to this day, a little bit bigger than this guy that I'm holding here. She's phenomenal. She's super calm temperamented. She was a little skittish at first when I first owned her, but after a couple weeks of handling, she's just been a gem. And this is really what got me into the doorway of owning my reptiles that I do today. So currently I have a Western hognose snake. These are one of my favorite species to keep. I currently have 2 of them at home, and I absolutely love them just because of their look and their personality. They do have this cute, really upturned nose, kind of like a pig. This one here is a baby, and when they get older, they're about 2 to 3 feet, not too big. They're gonna be a slender body snake, which makes it really nice if you live in a small apartment like I do. Here I have a cat gecko, and believe it or not, I did not know they existed until a couple of weeks ago. They're a really cool species, very cute face. We don't often get them in our store, and I've been doing a lot of research about them, and I can't wait to work with them.
My first reptile, believe it or not, was a crested gecko. Now, crested geckos were honestly such a draw to me just because of how big their eyeballs were, just a big chunky little gecko, and they were just super cute and very slow moving. Another big draw for me was the fact that they were an arboreal species and they were active at night. Because I worked really long hours during the day, I wanted to come home and have a reptile that was going to be awake when I got home, and that was this guy for me. And I lived in an apartment, so they didn't take up too much space. I loved feeding them. They'd always make a mess with the Pangea all over their face. They were just fun to watch. And honestly, these guys were the biggest gateway reptile for me into this hobby. All right, you guys, so the second reptile that I ever got, believe it or not, was actually a corn snake. Now, I got my corn snake off of Craigslist. I just really wanted another reptile, but I just didn't have too much money at that moment. And I found one on Craigslist that just needed to be rehomed. So I ended up getting this, not this guy, but I ended up getting an adult. And honestly, he was awesome. It was the first snake that I ever owned, and really is what got me into owning more snakes. I love them. I love the fact that they only ate once a week because I had a really busy schedule at the time, and I still kind of do, which is why I own a lot of snakes today. Look at this guy, super cool. All right, you guys, so one of my favorite reptiles that I own today is the Western hognose snake. I don't know what it was about these guys, but I just bought one, and the next thing you know, I had 15, and the next thing you know, I just couldn't stop buying them. It was their nose, it was the fact that they were just fun to breed, but the biggest draw to me for them was honestly just their attitude. They were super active during the day, they had a super cute little face, but they just have a fun little attitude, kind of like a little angry teenager. They're a diurnal species, so they're always up during the day, which was super fun for me. I just like seeing my reptiles out when I'm home. Honestly, these guys right here are still honestly just one of the biggest reptiles for me right now, and they're probably going to be there for me forever. All right, you guys, so my favorite reptile that I really want to get, it's a dream reptile without a doubt, is the Boelen's python. Now, the Boelen's python is really expensive snake to get, very hard to buy, but the biggest thing on them is they're just so beautiful. They have such an iridescent color on them. The first time I saw one was at the zoo, and I fell in love with it ever since. It's a pretty big-bodied snake, long, dark coloration, and just a really cool looking snake. That is without a doubt my dream snake, and I really hope to get one very soon. Probably not gonna get it very soon, but hopefully in the future.
What's up, guys? Jared here, Triple L Reptile. I'm gonna walk you through and show you some of my favorite animals, some of the animals that got me started in the hobby. I've been doing this now for over 20 years. I'm a keeper, a breeder. I work in the retail setting. So let's go and see some cool reptiles. When I was 6 years old, that's when I had my first leopard gecko. It was just a high yellow morph, kind of basic compared to today's. Becoming all shapes, sizes, colors, from the regular ones you see here to giants to super giants. I had my first leopard gecko for almost 20 years. So I actually keep and breed leopard geckos still to this day because of that. I breed giants, so if you ever see them in store, I would swoop them up. They're really cool. They're about double the size of normal leopard geckos. It doesn't matter what color you get, what shape, size, they're all going to be relatively the same care. They're a long-lived species that's not too demanding. Makes them an excellent pet. They do overall enjoy being held as long as you are careful with them. Never want to grab them by the tail. You never want to take them out in bright light because they are a nocturnal species. But because of their lifestyle and habits of where they originally come from, they are definitely an animal worth taking the time to invest and do research in, because you will make a long-lived, happy addition to any home or collection. Another animal that got me started would be crested geckos. I was probably around 8 years old. I was able to get my first crested gecko, and that was a flame crested gecko, which was a big deal back then. Now there are all types of crested geckos, all different types of morphs, colors. At Triple L, we get some really nice ones in. Some really unique ones from time to time. All of them, of course, healthy, happy, juveniles, babies, all the way up to some really big adult breeder female. They do jump, so you want to always kind of keep your hands on them, especially when they're young. But they do grow up fast, so a relatively easy lizard to keep as long as you meet humidity and temperature requirements. What's cool about them is they'll eat prepared diets like Pangea, Rapashi, and Zoomed. Makes them real cheap and easy to feed overall. Definitely a cool gecko to, again, do your research on, and would be a great addition to any home. Those are suitable kind of more for teenagers. Leopard geckos are suitable for children. So this is a Burmese python. This species of snake is awesome. Definitely a misunderstood animal. The overall are pretty gentle, really easy to keep, definitely don't require much, but keep in mind that this animal can reach 15 feet or more, and they are heavy. I have some individuals at home that are around 12, 13 feet, and they're around 70 pounds plus. They are fun snakes to keep, especially when they get larger. I mean, they are truly amazing animals. Something you would see at a zoo, definitely a privilege and pleasure to be able to own one of these animals. You're not able to, unfortunately, in every state, just due to laws that have been put in place because people don't understand how big they get. So always keep that in mind when you're getting ready to buy big snakes, especially Burmese pythons, anacondas, reticulated pythons. Keep in mind, do you really have the care requirements, logistics, and the dedication to keep such a large, magnificent animal? But for those that do, they are truly rewarding snakes. Overall, I probably will be keeping them for the majority of my life. I do love these animals. You definitely want to work with them too. They're one of the snakes that do benefit from regular handling. When they do get to be adults, you want to make sure that they are tame and socialized. If they are not, they can potentially be dangerous. So again, keep that in mind. That this is an animal right for you if you're willing to put the time, effort, and money into such a snake. But if you are, this could be the right animal for you.
All right, you guys, so I just want to stop right there for a second. Jared brings up some really good points. There are a lot of snakes that start off really small and get really big. But it doesn't just stop with snakes. It starts pretty much with a lot of reptiles. So that's something that you want to really think about before getting a reptile. Is every reptile for every single person? No. Unfortunately, there are reptiles that are going to get absolutely massive, and you might not have the real estate to house them properly. So always keep that in mind. That little baby sulcata is super cute, but they get really, really big. And they're not for everybody. There are some people that are going to be able to house those with no problem, and then there's going to be people that can't house them properly. You might be able to house them for a few years, but that's not going to be the best thing if you're not going to have a lifelong commitment to that reptile.
So the animal that got me into reptiles was actually a ball python. Probably almost 6 years ago, I came into Triple Reptile Oceanside looking for a new pet. and I came across a little baby bumblebee ball python. And I actually still have this little, not this specific guy, but I still have him today. I actually have 2 more ball pythons in my collection now. What I really like about these guys, especially when I first started, is how mellow they are. They're very, very calm. So in my family, they're not a big fan of reptiles. So these guys were a perfect intro to them just because of their demeanor. So the second animal I got was a Mexican black king snake. So this little dude I actually got about like 6 years ago at the last San Diego Super Show. What really got me interested in these guys is I wanted like a change of pace. So I got really comfortable with the ball python, and now I wanted something that would be a little bit more active, and that's kind of why I went with the king snake. On top of that, this little dude is what got my fiance super interested in reptiles, and now she has her own personal animals as well. Alright, so my third animal, unfortunately he's not here right now, but it's the frilled dragon. Currently have one of these guys at home. I actually raised him up from a little baby. I got him here a couple years ago, and what I really like about him is the personality on him. He's a very active lizard, but he's also kind of judgy. So he used to be here. A lot of customers got really, really excited about him. We used to call him frilled cheese. So if you guys have been customers here for a little bit, you probably did see him and you saw him grow the past couple years that he was here. So for my fourth animal, which I hopefully can get in the near future, they're the Australian spiny-tailed geckos. So what I really like about these guys is how unique they are and their defense mechanism. So what they do when they get scared is they'll stick up their tail, and they have a bunch of little barbs on the end of their tail that actually shoot out a liquid to scare off animals. And in general, I've just gotten a lot more into geckos as I've gone deeper into the hobby, and I just think they're very unique, very cool looking kind of animals. So I'm really hoping in the near future I can have a couple pairs of them.
Well, reptile and escondido, and right here I have actually one of the first reptiles I've ever kept, which is a ball python. So I actually got my first ball python at 8 years old, and my uncle actually gave him to me because he had a reptile rescue. See, super cool. I love these guys. They've always been such an awesome first time snake for people, especially me. Ever since I've had mine for around almost 8 years now, and it's just one of the coolest snakes. I still have it to this day actually, and super awesome, as you can see. Very, very pretty colors as well. Okay guys, so right here I actually have my second reptile that I've ever kept. It's actually a bearded dragon. These guys are really awesome. I've always loved these ever since I was a kid. I used to see them all the time when I would head to pet shops, and I remember my parents got me one for the first time. One of the coolest reptiles in my opinion. And you can see they're so calm and awesome. I just love them so much. They would always sit on your shoulder. They love to come out as well, which is my favorite thing about them. As you can see, they're very scaly. They have a lot of spikes, which are super cool. They are super red as well. Some of them are very dark in coloration as well. It's just so awesome to work with an animal like this. So right here I actually have one of my favorite reptiles, and this is actually a Colombian boa. So these, in my opinion, are one of the best large snakes you can keep. Now you can buy them at a foot long, but you definitely have to keep in mind that they do get very big, depending on the locality. But yeah, they are very awesome. You can see they're so tame as well. Similar to like a ball python, they can kind of just sit on your shoulder as well. Super awesome. I used to take mine out all the time, kind of walk around with it. She'd get a lot of attention. As you can see, super awesome though. Has very beautiful patternings and actually iridescence on the tail as well, which is super cool. As you can see. She's actually coming up to the camera now.
All right, you guys, so real fast, I wanted to cut in between this because this is actually really fascinating. Now, Colombian boas are a terrestrial species of snake, meaning they love to live on the ground. And that's why this guy has this really cool pattern. These guys are meant to blend in with the leaf litter. Check that out. This guy's pretty noticeable right now because he's a big snake inside of a store. But if you were in the forests of Colombia and you were walking through the forest, you would not see this guy. This guy would blend in very well, and that's their key, is to blend in and catch unsuspecting prey.
Another animal I actually want to talk about right now, which is one I currently own, is actually a sylphin dragon. So sylphin dragons are one of my favorite animals that I've kept, and they get around 3 feet in length. They do need a very big cage, so you'll definitely want to keep that in mind, and they are very advanced. I've always loved these guys ever since I was a kid and I seen them at the zoo. They were such an awesome animals. They literally look like dinosaurs. And there are different species, so you'll definitely see them in like black, you'll see them in greens, speckling colors, and they are just such an awesome animal to work with.
Right, you guys. So if you guys haven't noticed by now, there is a huge pattern between all of these reptile keepers within our company. A lot of us actually started with beginner reptiles, ball pythons, leopard geckos, corn snakes, milk snakes, crested geckos, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It is literally the first step into this crazy hobby that we call the reptile hobby. Well, there you guys have it. As you can see, all the employees in this company all started somewhere, and it's with the beginner reptiles. We all started with our ball pythons, our leopard geckos, our crested geckos, some of our different snakes. We've all started with some type of beginner reptile, and as the years went on and we gained more knowledge, we all started to get different reptiles. And that's what's so amazing about this hobby, is there's so much room for growth and there's so much room for knowledge, but everybody can play their part in educating each other and teaching each other new things about the reptiles that they've owned. And in my opinion, there's no better feeling than being able to share my experiences with reptiles with new people in the hobby. Getting somebody to come into our store and ask me all these questions about a ball python or a crested gecko, I love sharing my experiences with them. Believe it or not, I learn something new every single day when it comes to this hobby. And a lot of times it's not just from seasoned veterans, it's from newer people in the hobby. And that's always really fun. We can teach each other so much different stuff, and it makes the hobby itself grow. I hope you guys liked this video. Leave a comment down below and let me know what your first reptile was, or let me know what your first reptile is gonna be. Hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you never miss a video that we put out. I'll catch you guys next time. Whoop!